For me, this conversation is meaningful because, when you think of AI, I actually immediately think of the PC and getting in front of, not just consumers, enterprises, and how it changes the way we look at things and how we do things. I'd love to understand maybe a couple of things that you're seeing as the biggest challenges for them right now.
I think you said it right. AI is such a huge disruptor. It's creating trillion-dollar industries. New companies are showing up every day, and it's disrupting existing business models. And so when I think about the opportunity AI brings, it's immense, right? But so does the challenges that it brings, right? So a lot of our customers are like, how do I use this technology? And then when I think about it from a PC point of view, which is really where I sit in AMD, it's really about truly understanding how customers are using our technology, understanding their lifestyles, and we call those user personas. So really understanding, okay, how are you spending your day with our technology, and then how's AI going to sprinkle little bits of magic through the day for you, right? That's what I call it, because in the end, it's not going to be one big thing. It's going to be lots of little things that make your life so much more better. And so a lot of our customers are trying to figure this out, and they're on a journey somewhere on a spectrum of I'm waiting to see where to start, and I'm all in, and we're their trusted partners in this journey.
So when you think about the people in the middle, right, what would be the prediction for them? You said the word persona, which, I don't want to say it's a buzzword, but, for those that are coming in, they're hearing this for the first time. How would you predict that group from the ones that are just learning about it, how fast they need to scale and be able to do it? What would be something that you predict for what they need to be doing?
Yeah, so I think one, if you're already jumped in, right, and you're trying to figure out what your user base looks like, I think you have to take a step back and see what is the PC technology used for. So in the most basic sense, people, this is a personal computer. People want to be proud to carry it. So at a foundational level, you want it to be beautiful designs, thin and light PCs, high performance, so you can be productive at whatever, whether you're working, you're playing, you can be productive at whatever you want to do, and long battery life, multi-day battery life, so you can do it from anywhere, right? You don't want to be tethered to your office all the time. So that's kind of foundational. But then how do you sort of put those sprinkles of magic on top, which is where the AI comes in? And that's where you have to think about, the ISVs and the application base, and do you have the right applications that are making your employees more productive, that are making them get their job done faster? I'll give you an example. Software development is a great example where you could have now with AI and your local AI PC, a software developer that probably has 2 years of experience writing code like they have 15 years of experience because of the assistance that they're getting from AI. Now, is that valuable to an organization, especially when you think about, IP that is being created in the organization? I think that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, that's game changing. You mentioned something about productivity, and my mind immediately goes to, the cloud versus the edge, right? Are we going to see more of a transition of people understanding, first off, what the PC means in that game when it comes to AI? How do you see that, conversation, one, and two, any predictions around maybe the adopting or adapting to it?
Yeah. So, I think a lot of AI workloads, like you said, started in the cloud, right? But we're seeing NPUs now becoming prevalent in PCs everywhere. So, for example, I use ChatGPT on a day-to-day basis, and doing simple tasks with ChatGPT, but sharing my private personal information with it. I don't really want it to end up in the cloud. I don't really want it in the ether. So it's really great for me from a perspective of data privacy that I can just talk to my computer and get some help and assistance from my computer to do simple things, right? So that's how I use ChatGPT. So if you think about local AI PC, which is really NPU on the PC, data privacy and security, big drivers of why you would want something locally. Having more responsiveness, right? So latency, lower latency, so you can have more spiffier responses to whatever you're working on is another great use case of local NPUs. And then finally, when you think about, corporations thinking about costs, when you have 30, 40,000 employees, And if they're all working on the cloud all the time, that can get costly for an organization, right? We've seen that in the data center journey to the, private data center to the cloud journey and back. And so I think local AI PC can enhance that cloud to client experience, where I think in a spectrum, you can have great experiences with your local AI PCs where privacy is important to you or security is important to you. You can run enterprise class applications in the data center, right? Your private infrastructure, for example, and then you can have much more expansive use cases in the cloud. And so I think that spectrum works. And some of these PCs have become extremely, extremely capable. And so I'll give you a quick example. We launched this product called Ryzen AI Max. We launched it at CES this year. And this product has a large GPU, a very capable CPU, and a very capable 50 TOPS plus NPU in it. And the beauty of this product is it has a large local memory that is inherent into the Ryzen AI Max. So I can now put a 70 billion parameter large language model on this Ryzen AI Max CPU, and I can do some really cool things with it, right? And so if think about the context size that I can use on a 70 billion parameter model is about the same or better than a free cloud ChatGPT context.
So
right?
tell me a little bit, what's the latest thing you've done through their latest AI PC and that you're smiling. I love it. What's the latest thing you've done that you feel like you can't live without anymore?
Booked tickets to travel internationally, right? I mean, if you think about how much time you spend sometimes looking at the best cost and the best routes and what's the shortest route, it's one of those things where you can actually do things now which you were not able to do before.
Those are, to me, those are really big points, but to others think that's simple, but those simple things have the most impact.
Yeah, and for a large organization, and if you think about the value of the employees and the productivity they bring, even if you can improve that 20%, that's a very giant TCO for a Fortune 500 company. And one big thing that I'm seeing is the world of AI assistants. And so if you think about what that means is, we have intelligent assistants that are going to envelop us and, sort of give us superpowers. Yep. I call it superpowers because we couldn't have done these things without the assistant. So, I think one of the examples I like to use is there's a technology called MCP, and so it stands for Model Context Protocol. And what this technology does is it basically allows an LLM to intersect and talk with various different applications. So when you think about that, like if I'm spending my day, honestly, I spend a lot of time reading emails on Teams and Zoom calls. If I had the superpower where I could tell an AI assistant that, hey, go read this document and go look at my email and go figure out what the feedback was on that document and go look at the Teams call and figure out what the feedback was in the last review that we did of the document and summarize it all for me. The MCP protocol will go talk to, read your PDF or your Word document and then go read your Exchange server email and then go look at your Teams call and summarize the whole thing for you. This age of assistance that is coming, that then when you wrap it with reasoning, you can get a lot of stuff done which is low value of your time. So you can free up your time to do things that are important to you, your life, or high value in what you want to accomplish.
No, I agree. I think this time next year, the way that just the innovation that you all have done and just in general of how people are using and adapting it so quickly, it's going to, even if you don't want to use it, it's going to be right there for you to use at a high quality of rate that you have no choice but to at least look at it and read it to be able to summarize your emails or just to know what top 5 emails that you are supposed to respond to in your own voice, right? And I'm assuming you're using that to a degree right now that you can't live without it anymore.
Yeah, I think many people are. And then let me take you back to the persona examples. Mm-hmm. So when you think about engineers, and we call it the tech expert persona, right? So when you think about a tech expert persona, they're using applications like Cursor or Tabnine. And these applications, these are coders, right? Mm-hmm. They're using these applications in their everyday lives on their AI PC. And what these applications are doing is, again, giving them the superpower of being able to code at a level of a 10-year experience person instead of a 2-year experience person. So what does that mean? That means a new college hire in a corporation now is as good as a 10, 15-year experienced person. So you've actually accelerated the path of what you can get done from an IP build perspective. When you think about creators, right, using an application like Canva or Amuse. Amuse is an application that works on AMD CPUs.
It's on my AI PC.
So Amuse allows you text to video,
Yep.
right? Text to imagery. And so being able to actually create immersive content in a very easy way, that's a superpower.
I've used it on a post. And how fast, again, this sounds like an ad, but it's not. But like, it's fast. They take it for granted, I guess. They will in the future, because when you go on other platforms, it takes a while for it to load. And now you can play within it like a ChatGPT or a Copilot. It's pretty amazing.
And then if you think about me, I consider myself a road warrior. And really what that means is I'm traveling all the time.
You're not home.
I'm not home. I'm not home. Or even when I'm home or at work, I'm going between rooms, between meetings, doing stuff, on calls. And so, what's paramount to me is that I have the right security on my machines, right? Because I'm dealing with IP. I'm dealing with really critical, secure information that needs to be protected for AMD. And so when you think about that, Bufferzone is a great example of anti-phishing software that is using the AI prowess of the PC to make sure that you're protected.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all of these examples as you look at the various personas of things that these applications using the power of the AI PC are doing to get you the superpowers that we were talking about.
I think about security a lot, and I hear that, cybersecurity, security within, our space. When I say the word security, what comes to mind?
AMD Pro. And so I think simply put, enterprises, we're just trying to make it very easy for them to deploy AMD technology, right? It's just another thing they have to think about. We don't want them to think about it, right? So what that really means is whatever deployment tools they're using, whatever management tools they're using to deploy drivers or BIOSes or whatever to manage the hundreds of thousands of devices they have, they all work with AMD. We've qualified it. We've worked with the ISVs that deploy those tools, so it should all be seamless and frictionless for them. When you think about security and you think about the biggest players in the industry, whether it's Carbon Blacks or Sentinel Ones or CrowdStrikes of the world, they all work with AMD, right? When you think about enterprises want long-term image stability, they don't want to have to upgrade their systems. They want them in the enterprise for several years. We have that, right? As our enterprise systems have long-term image stability as sort of one of the DNA principles of what we do in AMD Pro. So again, very easy for them to not have to worry about security, manageability, or image stability. It just comes with AMD Pro.
So when you think about the leaders of these organizations, not just CEOs, but CIOs, and those, maybe even those that are not in the tech team, like what are maybe 3 tips that you would say to them of what you think a modernized PC will not just bring them, but they should want?
First, I think I would like to tell our CIO friends, and I recently did a interview on this, which is don't stand on the sidelines, jump in. Because if you don't jump in and adopt the technology, you'll be left behind. The technology space is changing so fast that what used to be 3 to 5 years historically is now every year there is rapid change in the landscape. And so jump in.
So when you say that, why do you think that they are sitting to the sidelines?
I think there is just a lot of change happening, right? And sometimes change is hard, and knowing when to jump in. They have a lot of legacy in their enterprises sometimes, right? Legacy applications or, data that needs to be highly protected and secure. So I can understand why they're doing it, but they're going to have to jump in at some point. So my advice would be jump in now. The rate of change is only going to accelerate. You're going to have to start somewhere. Start now. We are a trusted partner. We'll help you in that journey, right? And then we are cloud to edge, right? So we can help you in the data center journey. We can help you at the endpoint journey, right? So from that perspective, that's the first sort of. Now, when I think about client and PCs in general, I think, as they're thinking about Windows 11 refresh, right? Think about getting AI PCs or Copilot Plus PC. What that means is really at least have 40 TOPS NPU on the PC, because a lot of these applications that are coming out, we're at the beginning of the application space. It's only going to accelerate from here. There's going to be thousands of applications that use the NPU. So being able to have a capable, powerful device in the hands of their employees is absolutely the number one priority, right? And then as they think about this, they need to think about a more balanced architecture. So when I say balanced architecture, it's not only about the NPU. You need to have a large GPU. You need to have a very capable CPU that can also feed the engine, right? And so I think that's another important part. And finally, an AI-ready software ecosystem. So what that means is at least a Windows 11 Copilot machine or OS, and working with ISVs and actually getting the AI features implemented in their corporation so they can start using them, right? Whether it's in coding, whether it's in marketing departments, whether it's in finance, start somewhere. And once you realize the TCO in a few spots, you can expand. But that's how I think about it.
As you were going, I actually want to play this game. I'm going to pull out my phone because there's a play. Ryan is curious. You can give me one word answer. I'll give you a couple of sentences if you want to go there. Are you ready?
Yes.
What choice?
Born ready.
I like.
Or stay ready. That's what I would say. I stay ready.
So the future of AI is?
Pervasive.
The future of PCs?
Agentic.
Ooh. Explain.
The PC is going to be less about searching and more about doing. And, it used to always be the productivity tool. Yeah. It's just going to get hypercharged because now it's going to do things for you. You're going to have agents helping you with this. MCP that we talked about is going to enable that.
I love that answer, because then the next one, I think, is what is the biggest myth when it comes to AI that you are seeing or that people will see in the future? Because really what I'm thinking about is, as all of this is going on, or you just mentioned how it's going to change the way we work, how we interact, personal, professionally. But there's a myth of what AI is going to be maybe next year or this year. What do you think that is that people are going to have?
Maybe the myth is, I've heard this many times, what's the killer application? What's you're looking for what? I want the one killer application. And I'm like, no. There's no one killer application. There probably won't be one killer. Maybe there will be, but
don't back down. Say it.
But
there won't be
it's
one.
Going to be lots of little things that are done so well that you will not be able to go back. And I take the PC example. It's a very simple example. Touch. There's a pre-touch and a post-touch world, right? In the pre-touch world, you had to use the mouse and the touchpad to go scroll stuff. And then we have the touch world where people ask me, why do you need touch on a laptop? Well, use it once, and then you'll realize you cannot do without it because you're just scrolling, right?
What do you mean? I don't go to a cafe and I hit someone's screen and it doesn't work? And it doesn't have a touch
So
screen?
my daughter, true story, radio's playing in the car. First of all, she's like, what's radio? It's like, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And then she's like, can you forward this? Like, no, this is the radio. And then she's touching the screen, and I'm like, it's not a touch screen. That's the age we're in, and that's what people expect, right? And so AI is one of those things where it's going to be pervasive. It's going to be in everything. There'll be sprinkles of magic or superpower, whatever you want to call it. The biggest myth, I think, is this thing around what's the one killer application. I think there's been lots of small things that really are going to change how we do things.
So let me ask you one more or two more. What would you say the biggest challenge for enterprise is?
I think there's a few challenges, right? One, of course, budgets are pretty constant for them, right? And when you think about the transformation that they're going through, they have to allocate their capital, right? And so is PCs the most important place to allocate their capital? Right. And so I think they need to think about that because, again, employee satisfaction is driven by the personal device. Employee productivity is driven by the personal device. And if they're not satisfied and they're not productive, they're going to leave.
Hey, you've seen the data, right? There's data behind that.
There's data that says, the more satisfied employees are, the more engaged they are. And the more engaged they are, the better your corporation does from a perspective of IP creation and shareholder value, right? And so in the end, I think that's very important. So I think that's one thing they have to think about their budget and the challenges around there. I think the other thing is they're also grappling with the fact that, okay, what are the applications? How do I qualify all of this stuff? There's a lot of noise in the world. How do I get the noise filter going and figure out what works for me?
Does we as a community enterprise, do we get better on breaking that noise in the future in a year? Yes or no?
I think we do. We absolutely do. I mean, you don't have to look very far back. I think if you just look back to the iPhone, pre-iPhone era, to the app infrastructure in iPhone, I use that as an example because it's a really good example of, when the iPhones first came out, they probably had 100 applications, maybe, a couple hundred applications and they're like 2009, 2007, somewhere there. And now we're sitting in 2025 and hundreds of thousands of applications, little things that improve our lives on a daily basis. That's the journey the AI is on, right?
That's it. Well, pretty much you're saying we don't have a choice.
We don't. And it's going to leapfrog, right? It's going to just, the world of applications is going to leapfrog. And we're doing our part in that. And our part being enabling ROCm as an example, right? And so ROCm is a tool and a framework that we enable where all of the development that developers are doing for our MI infrastructure can apply it to our client infrastructure, right? And so that's a great example of how we're making it easy for developers. We've released SDKs or development kits for developers to very simply code for Ryzen AI NPUs, right? We have created the Lemonade server to allow you to use easy APIs to access all of the foundational large language models on your PC, right? So we're making it easier for developers to code for AI. And my hope is we're working with hundreds of them, right? We're enabling them, we're working with them hand in hand, we're optimizing for them, we're working with Microsoft on the same thing. So my hope is as an industry, there'll be a lot more applications that are going to be capable of utilizing, because the technology in the CPU, the GPU, the NPU is there. Yeah. We're ahead of the curve in terms of the actual sheer power technology we have. Now we need the software to catch up and then enable the enterprises to do better.
Well, I mean, I hear this consistently out of AMD for years, how, being a part of the ecosystem and leading the ecosystem, being part of it, bringing everyone together is so important to be able to make that impact. So I guess my last question would be the future of AMD is.
I think I'll put a phrase on that, right?
Okay, yeah.
Our future is about enabling human potential. So that's really what I want to think of. Like, I don't want to think of AMD as a technology company. I want to think of it as something that is enabling everyone to reach their best potential. And so that's what the future of AMD is.